Welcome, friends. The cold night had wrapped the city in silence. The waitress, with trembling hands, slipped the leftover bread into her worn-out bag. She wasn't stealing for herself. She was thinking of two hungry children waiting in the shadows of a broken cardboard shelter. Her eyes glistened with hidden pain, but her heart carried endless kindness. At that very moment, the undercover CEO watched quietly from behind. He had come searching for truth among his workers. But what he found was something far greater. When he saw her kneel in the dark alley, breaking the bread gently and offering it with love, his heart stopped for a moment. It wasn't the act of hiding bread that moved him, it was the purity of her soul, the silent sacrifice, the love stronger than hunger. For the first time, the powerful man felt his own walls of pride crumble. He realized that true richness doesn't lie in money, but in the courage to give when you have almost nothing. His eyes softened, and in that instant, he wasn't just a CEO, he was a man touched by humanity, falling for the depth of her heart. Like, subscribe, comment, share, soul of kindness. Welcome, friends. Rain had just stopped, leaving the narrow alley glistening under the dim street lamps. The young waitress knelt on the cold pavement, her apron still stained from a long day's work. With care, she pulled out a piece of bread she had hidden away, not for herself, but for two shivering children huddled in a fragile cardboard shelter. Their innocent eyes lit up as she broke the bread in half and placed it gently in their tiny hands. Behind her, unnoticed, stood the undercover CEO. He had come with suspicion, ready to uncover dishonesty. But instead, he found honesty of the purest kind, compassion. The simple act of a woman who had little, yet gave everything, struck deep into his heart. The sight humbled him. For all his wealth, he realized he had never known hunger, nor the courage it takes to feed others when you yourself have nothing. At that moment, he wasn't just witnessing kindness, he was falling for it. Falling for the strength, the beauty, and the selfless soul of a woman who chose love over survival. Like, subscribe, comment, share, soul of kindness. Welcome, friends. The night was heavy with silence. The narrow alley soaked in the dim glow of rusty street lamps. The sound of distant footsteps echoed on the wet pavement. But the young waitress paid no attention. She was kneeling near a broken cardboard shelter, her apron still stained with the marks of long hours at work. With trembling fingers, she opened her small, worn-out bag and pulled out a loaf of leftover bread. She had quietly saved from the restaurant. It wasn't for herself. Her own stomach had been empty for hours, but hunger didn't matter to her. What mattered were the two fragile children before her, one little boy, his clothes torn and his face pale from cold, and his younger sister, clutching a torn teddy bear as if it were the only warmth she had in the world. The waitress broke the bread in half, her eyes soft with love, and placed the pieces into their tiny hands. Their faces lit up with gratitude, as if she had given them a feast fit for kings. But behind her in the shadows, a man was watching. The undercover CEO, disguised in plain clothes, had followed her out of curiosity. At first, he suspected dishonesty. Why would a worker hide food in her bag? But now, standing still with his heart pounding, he realized the truth. She wasn't hiding bread to steal. She was hiding bread to save. In that single moment, everything inside him changed. He had lived his whole life surrounded by luxury, never knowing what it meant to go without. Yet here, before his very eyes, was a woman who had nothing, yet chose to give everything. A woman who sacrificed her own comfort to keep two strangers alive for one more night. His chest tightened, his pride melted, and for the first time in years, he felt something stir deep within his soul. It wasn't just admiration. It was a pull stronger than wealth, stronger than power. It was love. He wasn't just falling for her act of kindness. He was falling for her. And as he stood there in silence, he knew this moment would stay with him forever. Like, subscribe, comment, share, soul of kindness. Welcome, friends. The alley was silent except for the faint dripping of rainwater. The waitress knelt on the cold pavement, pulling out the bread she had hidden. Her hands trembled as she looked at the two children sitting inside a fragile cardboard box. The little boy whispered, his voice weak but hopeful, "Sister, is that for us?" The waitress smiled softly, though her eyes carried hidden tears. "Yes, it's not much, but it will keep you warm tonight. Eat, my dears." She tore the bread in half and placed it gently in their hands. The little girl clutched her teddy bear, staring at the waitress as if she were an angel. Just then, the CEO stepped closer, his polished shoes echoing in the alley. The children froze, and the waitress quickly turned, fear flashing in her eyes. "CEO," softly, Why are you hiding bread?" She lowered her gaze, ashamed, her voice breaking. "Waitress, because they have nothing. And if the manager found out, he would throw it away rather than let me bring it here." I couldn't watch them sleep hungry again. For a moment, silence fell. The CEO's eyes softened as he looked at the fragile children, then at the woman kneeling before them. He felt something inside him shatter. "CEO," whispering to himself, "all my life, I thought I knew what value was, but this is worth more than all my fortune." The waitress, confused, looked up at him. Tears welled in his eyes as he stepped closer. "CEO, you've given me something I never had, a reason to believe in humanity again." The boy held his piece of bread tightly and said in his small, innocent voice, "Mister, she's our hero." At those words, the CEO's heart fell completely. He wasn't just seeing kindness, he was falling in love with it, with her. Like, subscribe, comment, share, Soul of Kindness.